Good evening, I'm Amadou Obewing. Now, the saga concerning the Chicago State University certificate or diploma of the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has continued to gain momentum. There have been various comments, various analysis, but today we'll be taking a deeper look, so to speak, at this particular issue, what it means, the legal aspect, and what it means perhaps for our own court system here, particularly with the Supreme Court set to take on the next stage of the tribunal general elections and petitions, where we have Atiku Abubakar and the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi both going to the Supreme Court to seek for redress for the February 25th elections. Tonight we're joined by Barrister Samuel Ihienseken Jr. to speak on this saga and what it really means, and to shine a light on the legal aspect of the whole issue. Mr. Samuel Ihienseken, good evening and welcome to Top Talk.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Good day.
All right, so let's just get straight into it. The deposition was held a couple of days before. What's your take on this mission by the former vice president and the key takeaways or expositions that was gotten from that deposition?
I want to say that I like the doggedness of Atiku Abubakar. I have immense respect for him, but as a lawyer, I look at the probability of certain action and whether they are liable in law. First and foremost, the Bola Tinubu, did he actually attend CSU, Chicago State University? Did he graduate? And was it issued a diploma or a certificate? Comparatively, from everything everybody have seen, including you yourself, you can see one basic thing is that as God will also have it, fortunately, I personally have handled a lot of forgery cases at the election tribunal, and I know what it entails. I think I have a specialty when it comes to forgery, sole ground of forgery allegations at the election tribunal. And I can tell you from experience, the mode and the evidential burden that is attached to prove forgery in the election tribunal is so hard that any doubt at all, is resolved in favor of the respondent. That is, in this case, Bola Tinubu. He's now the respondent at the Supreme Court in the appeal filed by Atiku Abubakar. So the body now is on Atiku Abubakar to prove. I've asked 3 select questions, and from everything we've seen from Jeffrey Gibbons' judgment, initial judgment, the one on appeal, Maldonado, those are appeal judgments from America, it's very obvious. And the order she gave that the record of Tinubu should be released to Atiku, and in compliance, 4 of the things we sought for, 3 we actually made available to Atiku Abubakar. The disparity in name, there were clarification to that as at the point, even the transcript and the admission letter of Bola Tinubu was also handed over. So, in all sincerity, I praise the step taken by erudite legal luminary who happens to also be my mentor, Gani Fawemi, who started this process of actually trying to unveil the mystery surrounding this Tinubu's certificate. But I can tell you categorically that the issues of Tinubu forgery, from my own narrative and my own opinion and everything I've witnessed in this case, I cannot see it. I'm talking from a refined and from an experienced point of legal view. I can't see it. The disparity of names is only administrative misnomer. It's just a disparity. It do not actually. The question in election forgery is that, is the document actually in existence or not? Did Tinubu actually attend the school or not? The record from the CSU are showing he actually attended the school. But the certificate he submitted they are not clear, but that does not make forgery to be proved against him. And the school, through one of their registrars, have issued a disposition that said he actually attended our school. So I think this is an exercise that I don't know the outcome. I don't want to prejudice it because before the court, but the chances of anybody succeeding on this, and more importantly, when you talk about bringing up new documents on appeal, in several cases, the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have held there are actually 3 grounds the court will allow you. One, was there reasonable care and diligence taken to get this document before this time you are not bringing it to the appeal? 2, is the document is of such a nature that is incontrovertible? That means there are no disputes as to the document. 3, is the document important, not necessarily crucial, in order to eventually decide the matter? These are the criteria for bringing in documents on new documentary evidence by way of a motion on appeal. I don't think these documents they tend to bring actually will change the narrative of the presidential elections that was done in order to ground the allegations of forgery. I'm not talking as a party man. Let me make that point clear, because I know this thing is going to go, this video and this interview will go everywhere. I'm talking from my own opinion as a person, not as someone who's representing a PDP, or I'm talking from my own opinion as a person. I don't think this issue, and secondly too, the third ground that the document is incontrovertible, there are no disputes. There are disputes. Tinubu has presented his own good version of his own document, and the school has authenticated some of those things he said he paraded, and so what is left? And the sanctity of this document changing the narrative of the case, the probability is small. The question I want to ask, the question I've asked before in the beginning: did Tinubu attend CSU? If he attended CSU, then everything we are doing is academic. Every talk, opinions is at the level of it's as good as bringing something to the court and dumping it outside the court.
All right, but the issue here is that during the deposition, the university admitted that the particular certificate submitted to INEC did not come from them. They've said he attended the school, they've said they know him and all of that, but that certificate submitted to INEC did not come from them. And I'm wondering, is that enough to prove forgery? Because the issuer, you've gone to the issuer and the issuer says, I did not issue that. Is that all that is needed, or there still needs to be more proof to be accepted or used to?
I don't, from what I saw, I didn't see where the university said categorically. I think what they probably said is that they cannot authenticate the document because several persons over time have left the university and they cannot sign. I don't think it's anywhere in the disposition they said Tinubu certificate did not come from them.
No, they said the particular one.
Yes, but the question is, did he graduate and was he issued the certificate? That's the question.
But let me just read out a tweet by an old tweet anyway.
Yes.
By
Festus Kayomo.
Yes.
No, we don't. Festus Kayomo is not an authority on this matter.
No, but as an SN, I think we can also.
No, we cannot rely. That is his own opinion. The way I'm expressing my own opinion.
Okay.
I've just told you the position as to courts. You know, when you talk about forgery in election matter, there must be a disclaimer from the school. Has there been a disclaimer from the CSU that Tinubu's certificate is forged? There is none that exists. There must be a report.
But for them to say they don't...
No, there must be a disclaimer tendered before the courts. A disclaimer. They will come. They've not brought any disclaimer. They've not. What they have just did is just a disposition as to the document release, that they cannot really make, as at this time, they cannot authenticate this document. That means they need time to verify and validate that document. But that does not mean the document is forged. I'm talking in my own good conscience. I'm not talking, you should know my stance when it comes to the APC, but I'm talking from a very refined and from an experience in Mohammed versus Wamako, in Obaseki versus APC in Oyetola versus Adeleke. These are clear Supreme Court cases that has to do with forgery. And even in the one I handled in Chido versus Sani Aliyu and APC, the court has heard it in some of these cases. Some of these cases are just enumerated for you. It's for you to prove forgery, there must be a disclaimer from the school. In the absence of disclaimer, more particularly in Adeleke versus Oyetola, then forgery has not been proved in election matters. So where is the disclaimer from CSU? A disposition is just they are disposing to some certain narrative, but not a disclaimer. A disclaimer is like a letter clearly stating that this person did not attend our school. In the absence of that,
but that's another question. Talking about attendance, they've agreed that he attended.
No, I'm not talking about. I wish you have a better understanding. A disclaimer, not whether you attend school.
But the disclaimer should be for you. That's the certificate, not his attendance.
No, not his attendance. But they have said the disclaimer. There's no disclaimer to say that Tinubu did not graduate or was not issued a certificate. There's no disclaimer to that regard. If they said he didn't graduate or was not in a case in Galulo's case, Wamba versus Galulu, which is with the Court of Appeal decision. In that case, one of the parties said he attended Lagos State Unilag, he attended Yaba College, and he actually passed out from the NYC, and the matter was ongoing. And in that instance, the university he said he went to, they came to the school that they don't have a faculty known as business administration. And they submitted a disclaimer. NYC came that nobody at any time went. That is how you prove forgery. It must be clear.
What about
in Obaseki's case, the certificate Obaseki was parading is quite different from the one the school was holding, or his classmates. And in that case, the court said no. The school never came before this court and said Obaseki never went to this school. All they came to tell this court is that the way the font size word is quite different. No, the school has never one day denied that Obaseki is not our student. We should be careful because, you know, when we do these things in the guise of because we don't like this person, someday, me and you and every other person will still be in that position that person is. And so the most important thing is to be so discomforting. Anybody to challenge your membership of being a past student of some certain places, because probably the way you printed your certificate, or probably the way, no document sometimes can just be the same. Sometimes it might just be administrative. It might just be an oversight from the school who made a little error when they were issuing it, and that would not constitute forgery. No. Forgery is that this thing in question, this document you are talking about, do not exist in reality. I don't want us to crucify somebody because generally Nigerians do not like him. But that does not mean that he actually forged the certificate. I want us to, so that we can dwell on other very serious issues. There are other issues left for determination at the presidential election. The Supreme Court now, who's now overseeing and actually will pass a judgment on the presidential election. There are other very serious issues that are before the court beyond the certificate.
All right, I don't know if we can comment quickly on the Enugu matter, where it seems the NYSC head or a representative basically said that the NYSC do not recognize the certificate of the governor, but then the matter still flew. When you say disclaimer, it has to be written, does
yes,
it? Okay.
Yes. You know, in that I have serious...
But how do you get a disclaimer? So
the disclaimer is like a letter.
Yeah, but what I want to understand
a disclaimer is not like a press release. It's a letter authenticating what that person is parading, attaching. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Attaching that document, this certificate. Yes, a disclaimer letter will be on the front of it. The one I've handled, there was a disclaimer. But Mao, who went to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal expunged this disclaimer letter because it was made after the time for filing of election petition.
But my question is,
coming back to
is the institution compelled to do it, or it is just based on how
in the case of forgery? No, in the case of forgery, the lawyer has to do his due diligence with the school. If the lawyer knows this person do not, then meet up with the school, liaise with them, subpoena them to come and testify before the court with a disclaimer letter. In the absence of disclaimer letter, because it's documentary, what you say is just oral. But there must be
even if the courts can get the registrar to come here and he says this certificate is not...
It's still not sufficient. There must be a formal disclaimer.
Okay, what about the other argument that for forgery to also be established, there needs to be some sort of conviction? I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, that is criminal, purely criminal forgery. We are talking about electoral.
Yeah, but some lawyers are arguing that even though it's we're in an electoral aspect, forgery is still criminal, and that
it's still criminal.
For you to say this person forged, then they have to have been convicted in
the proof of forgery in criminal matters is beyond reasonable doubt, and it's not easy. If they want to go by that with the Tinubu, that means they are just joking, because they need to compare the school for you to prove forgery in criminal matters as to documents. The original will be shown and the photocopy will be shown. But in electoral matters, once it is shown that a document is not in existence and there is a disclaimer, that enough satisfy the definition of electoral forgery of documents, the jurisprudence of electoral forgery of documents. That is the distinguishing factor.
Well, it's good to hear that clarification, because there's been a lot of arguments.
Yes.
But talking about even the fact that this is all happening in the U.S., is there some sort of process that can bring it here? Because we also hear arguments that they simply can't take what has happened and then bring it to the Supreme Court. There must be some legal...
I think what Article 1 is actually the documents, not the process of enforcement. Okay. There was no judgment on the legality of the step Article has taken, or anything on the court never made any pronouncement on it. I went through all the articles, everything, even word Frank Shaibu, who's the spokesman for Atiku Abubakar. These are my people. Yes, I'm not, but you see, I must say the truth. That is where I'm an activist first, before being any other thing. So I've seen everything everybody has said. I've not seen a disclaimer letter saying Bola Tinubu never attended the school, did not graduate, and was not issued a certificate. So I will be doing myself injustice to say Bola Tinubu forged his CSU certificate. It will be against my own principle to always speak for the truth.
But what about that the deposition where it says that the one submitted to INEC did not come from us?
I never saw I don't know whether some other person saw it, but from what I saw, the only thing I saw is it cannot authenticate for now, but that does not make it inadmissible. That means there's a precondition. The precondition, they need to do further search to clarify. Probably the person who signed that document was not readily available at that time. So, but that does not make it a forged document. A forged document is when the document does not exist at all. And from all the records they are presented, they actually issued Tinubu a certificate. So if that particular recipe of the certificate, they cannot find it, that does not make it forged.
Well,
coming to the Enugu issue, I saw the judgment. I humbly advise Labour Party to please appeal that judgment. I don't believe in that judgment at all. I don't want to talk to it because it's sub judice, but they should please appeal that judgment.
All right. So moving forward, how do you, really see this panning out? They say the Supreme Court, pardon my language, it's not just that they say. The Supreme Court is a court of policy. So in this regard, some persons have even said that the Supreme Court has no choice. They are going to, not allow this new evidence, so to speak. You already spoke about it a little, but I wonder, is there any reality or any way in which this is actually accepted? Because that is what a lot of lawyers are saying now, that is the obstacle. That in the first place, before it can even be deliberated or accepted, the Supreme Court is unlikely to accept it. And some persons raise the concerns that the PDP did not have the forgery case in their original case, that it only came up when the APC replied to PDP, and then in the PDP's counter response, they now brought up. So it wasn't part of their original petition. Does that affect anything?
It affects anything. Elections are sui generis. Any attempt to even rehash, alter, amend goes against the provisions of Section 285, sub 5 of the Constitutional Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended in 2011. Once a party has not specifically, distinctively, or generally plead the cause of his matter in several headings and under the ground. I've explained you can come under so many grounds under election petition. It has not. Then you want to buy a P, now want to raise fresh issues. Is unallowable in election petition. In Ahmed Chindo, Chindo and Sani Aliu and APC, I did that case, and that was what the Court of Appeal actually held in that matter. So it's not, it's unallowable. However, on this, if originally this issue as to certificate was not pleaded, then it's an academic exercise by Atiku Abubakar, with all due respect to his struggle. Probably, I think the essence of this whole thing is for future elections. They will specifically plead it, raise it, and the court will pronounce on it.
All right. Is there any
But they should also be careful, because if the Supreme Court pronounce on this certificate now, it becomes per curiam. They cannot raise it subsequently in other elections.
I was just about to ask that.
So once the Supreme Court pronounced in Adeleke's case, or in Yotola, the issue as to Adeleke's forgery of his certificates, SCC, came up before now, in 2019. The issue came up before the FCT High Court. The FCT High Court assumed jurisdiction, which they ought not to assume jurisdiction. The matter was heard. It went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal set the judgment aside of the FCT High Court, that the court does not have jurisdiction. And two, another court from Osun State has decided on the merits on that matter, that the court is bereft of jurisdiction to have delved into the merit, and that the certificate is proper. And in the new case that came up in 2022, Yetola filed again and raised the issue as to certificate forgery. And Adeleke tried to present to the court, plead and send to the court a copy of the judgment earlier delivered at the just before the 2019 elections. And the court, I don't know for whatever reason, the tribunal, the lower courts, they refused the judgment, that it's not part of the document pleaded and all. But this is judgment of court. It's an authority that binds even the lower court. So, and they went to decide the issues, and they put, the famous judgment of Muga, Olololo. The matter went on appeal, and the Court of Appeal said, since that judgment is a judgment of the court, and on this issue, it binds everybody. It binds Adeleke, it binds Yetola, Penkurium, it binds the tribunal. The tribunal was wrong in error. You don't need to plead it. You submit it as an authority. And so the tribunal relied on that judgment, that since the court have litigated upon this judgment, and they nullified the proceedings of the tribunal, along other issues for determination that came up in the brief of Adeleke, and they upheld the elections of Governor Adeleke. So it's the same thing. So if I were PDP, I'll wait for better days. I don't think this should be an issue. It should just be a political issue. Then, when is time for the main election next year, you feel this document is forged, then you raise it and see how you can succeed.
All right, but assuming the Supreme Court doesn't even allow it to be admitted, is this something they can still raise, or is it when the Supreme Court allows it and then dismisses it that it becomes?
Yeah, it becomes binding. So that's the danger.
Okay,
that is a strategy.
It might even be in their best interest for the Supreme Court not to allow it.
If I were there, because the chances of that document flying is very remote. The chances of it flying is not automatic. It's very, very remote. On the criteria of allowing additional documents in election matter, which have enumerated, in election appeals, which have enumerated for you, it's left for them.
Oh, that's fair enough. But the PDP still seems to want to follow this all the way.
It's left for them, but you can see from my comprehensive what I've said. I believe your scope and your understanding of these issues has been expanded.
Right. So let's talk about what this could mean. This is not really about the law now, so to speak, but we have our presidents being quote unquote dragged to the international scene, being put on stand. I believe there's a part of the deposition that even says, I'm paraphrasing here, but it says that's how they do it over there. There was some sort of statement.
I didn't come across, in litigation, anybody can come tomorrow and said, I'm a poor thief. But can the person prove it? Tinubu might not be a perfect man, but I think on this certificate issue, he has no much blame.
No, but this is not about the law now.
Yes.
I'm talking about perception.
How
do you think this affects us?
this is a legal issue, and you cannot put it in human perspective. It's a purely legal issue. And attempt to put it in moral perspective, that means you are taking side. That is the truth. When it comes to the law is the law. When it comes to moral issues, the moral issues, there's no morality. I think we initiated this matter by way of a legal redress. I don't know what they call it over there in America. And so the only way to address this issue is by putting a legal perspective. So there's no morality in this whole Tinubu issue. It's a purely legal matter. And if the court now said the certificate is forged, it's a different thing entirely, which that they did not. And two, why are they coming at this late? The Supreme Court said for you to use document on appeal, that means reasonable diligence, reasonable diligence. You have tried to make steps to take it. It's something, even if you use reasonable and accurate diligence, you could not get it. He would have instituted this case before now. And so he's not bringing it now when he's on appeal for a couple of days. So of what benefit? Just after, I think just before the presidential tribunal concluded the matter, that was when he instituted this case. So of what use? Why not during the pre-election stage, before the matter, even before the presidential election, you file it and see how you can get judgment. So on that ground, on reasonable and due diligence, I don't think you will, that criteria to allow new documents, the first criteria, I don't think they have met that threshold.
All right, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Fellow citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I consider it important to address and report to you today on issues that define the future of elective government and legitimate leadership in our country. Political leadership and active citizenship matter because they are ways through which we all work together to build a country that works for all who live in it and who will come after us. Our country is bigger than any one of us, and its standing in the world affects the fate of all who come from or live in this great country, which has great future. As leaders, it is our duty to advance the well-being of all our people and of the country. For this purpose, my generation worked hard to return the soldiers to the barracks. Very many of us are here. And to defend the right of the people to elect and establish for ourselves legitimate government. Our elections are established and governed by law and founded on the Constitution, from which leadership and government in Nigeria alone derive their legitimacy.